If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Thanks for hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and plenty to do on this Tuesday. Glen West going to join us 30 minutes from right now. We'll talk about LSU and South Carolina on the hardwood tonight, and LSU against Southern on the diamond in an hour. We'll do both of those with Glenn coming up at 1:30. Trades Greens decided to step away from basketball. We'll chat a little bit about that. And the Tigers, can they win 2 in a row? South Carolina's winless in the league. They come to the PMAC. We'll do that at 2 o'clock. That's when LSU baseball against Southern will fire up. So in the second hour, we're not going to talk any LSU baseball. We'll talk LSU South Carolina. Sharif Ishak will join us at 2:15 to talk about a lot of the things going on with the Saints. We're going to do some of that coming up in 15 minutes as well. And then Kurt Schilling is going to join us an hour and a half from right now. Of course, the Major League Baseball legend. If you were listening, we were on Radio Row last week. I teased Kurt Schilling 3 different times. We had him booked. We had some time ready to go. And I saw him across the room, but as things go in that room, folks get held up, interviews run long, schedules get jumbled, and he wasn't able to make it. So I kind of put it in the rearview mirror. But his team did come to us to book that interview, and when he didn't make it, I think they felt a little bit of remorse, and they're like, hey, can he come on next week? And I was like, absolutely. I'll talk to Kurt Schilling on the radio next week. So they've been kind enough to give us a little bit of time. Kurt is going to talk a little bit about the World War II Museum, which is very, very near and dear to his heart. But I want to hear some old war stories as well. Actually, that's just a horrible pun that I didn't mean to do. I want to hear about him playing baseball, not being in World War II. And we'll hear some of that an hour and a half from right now from Kurt Schilling. Funny how words sometimes come out that way. Who are the Saints hiring on the offensive side of the ball? We'll do that in 15 minutes. But right now, it's our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU and Southern will play baseball in an hour from right now, so I want to kind of give y'all my thoughts on that as they get ready for a little matinee action. Look, I understand they've got to do this sometimes. It's best to plan this way because cold weather can be really nasty. There are a lot of SEC teams that are not going to be able to play the next 2 days because the weather's going to be so cold. That's not necessarily going to be the case down here in South Louisiana, but it's better to be safe than sorry, so they'll play in the afternoon a few times, which will bump up into our show. We'll live, but we'll talk about it before they get out on the field today. And the lineup is out. It was published about 8 minutes ago, so let's go through what Jay Johnson's got in store for Southern today. Chris Stanfield's going to lead off and play in center field. That's what happened all weekend. Derek Curiel is going to hit second and play left field. Okay, gotcha. Jared Jones in the 3-hole. We figured that. Daniel Dickinson is going to play second base and hit cleanup. Ethan Fry is the DH. Now, I don't know if Southern's throwing a lefty or not. I honestly don't know. It stands to reason they probably are with Fry in the DH spot, but he'll hit fifth and DH. Josh Pearson's going to play right field in the 6th hole. Michael Braswell is going to play third in the 7th hole. Stephen Milam's a shortstop. He'll hit 8. And Kade Arambidi is going to do the catching and hit 9th. We'll talk pitching here in a second. But as you look at that lineup, you've got the mainstays. Stanfield, Curiel, Jones, right there at the top of the order. Those are the guys that Jay Johnson wants to put 1, 2, 3. The cleanup spot has shifted a little bit. We saw Josh Pearson there opening day. We saw Daniel Dickinson in there. After that, Dickinson remains in there, and if it's against a left-handed pitcher, that makes a lot of sense. Same thing for Ethan Fry. Josh Pearson's in right field, and Fry's DHing, which means Jake Brown's not playing, and Ashton Larson is not playing. Of course, Ashton Larson drove in 7 runs over the weekend, had a big-time Sunday where he drove the ball out of the ballpark for a 3-run homer to kind of get LSU kick-started there in the middle innings. There's just not enough room. There's not enough room for everybody. And that's going to be something that's very interesting to watch as we move forward. I asked Ashton, I said this on the show yesterday, I asked Ashton in the post-game press conference, like, hey, what's it like not playing every day? I mean, he actually did play every day, starting every day. And how is that mentally, and how do you prepare yourself? And he dismissed it. Now, it's 3 games in, and he started one of them, and he was just coming off a game where he drove in 5 runs and hit a homer. So he's probably in pretty good mood. But the question is, how does Jake Brown feel about not playing every day? How does Josh Pearson feel about not playing every day? How does Ethan Fry feel about not playing every day? There are going to be a lot of guys in that pitching staff who are not going to be the Friday night starter, the Saturday starter, or not going to be the closer. How do they feel? If everybody's on the same page, which it felt like the 23 team really kind of was, they settled on a lineup, but there was a lot of upheaval. Dugas was in the outfield, and then he was at second base, and Trey Morgan was at first base, and then he went to the outfield, and then he went back to first base, and Jared Jones came out of the lineup, and Joe Bear was in and out of the lineup, and Riley Cooper was in and out of the rotation, and like there were a lot of things shuffled, and it felt like LSU as a team handled that pretty well. How does this group handle it? I don't really have any doubts about Josh Pearson. Pearson's done this for like 3 years now, so he kind of knows how it works, but I'm curious how Brown, how Larson, how Fry, those guys handle this. But today, no Brown, no Larson in the lineup. Cade Arambidi is going to do the catching, and I think they're going to try to get him in there in some confidence-building spots, and I think a game against Southern is certainly a confidence-building spot. Arambidi will see pitching today that is very likely comparable to a lot of what he saw in high school. I'm just guessing. I don't know anything about one pitcher on Southern's baseball team. Didn't look into it. Don't care. Like, I'm here to be informative. I'm here to do research. I'm here to be prepared. I'm not going to go through Southern's pitching staff 3 games into the season to see who they might throw against LSU. I'll just see the numbers when they come out. I'll watch the video, and then I'll analyze it when the game's over for you here and then on LouisianaSports.net. But, I'm not going to go over Southern's pitching staff. Not worth anybody's time. But my guess is they will throw somebody today that throws in the low 80s. That's just my guess. And I'm guessing that Cade Arambidi saw plenty of that 12 months ago in Houston high school baseball. So he'll take the spot behind the dish today. Now, who's pitching? That was really the biggest question because LSU used 12 pitchers over the weekend. You saw 10 of them top 95 miles an hour. You know all the numbers, 45 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 runs allowed. Neither were driven in. One scored on a wild pitch. One scored on a steal of home on a double steal play. It was a phenomenal weekend, pitching-wise, from the numbers and the video, and everything was great. Who gets the ball today? Well, you figure probably one of the 3 guys that didn't take the ball, that you figure will take the ball as the season goes on, that didn't over the weekend. That's Gavin Guidry, that's Connor Ware, and that's Zach Cowan. Guidry, of course, been here for 2 years, done a lot of bullpen work, has been stretched out, candidate to start potentially. Cowan was a starter and the ace for Wofford last year. Threw a lot of innings, over 100, chewed up Friday nights, won a lot of games, got a lot of strikeouts. Great year. And then you got Connor Ware, who we've been talking about for really 5 months now, since he came out there in the fall and really dominated LSU's hitters from start to finish in fall baseball. And Connor Ware is the guy that's going to get the baseball in this game. And I'm excited to watch it. I think that I don't know this. This is me speculating. I think that if LSU would have gotten into a tight game Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you may have seen Guidry or Ware in that game. But as it worked out, LSU's offense erupted. Starting pitching was very good. All of them went 5 innings, and you separated yourself from on the scoreboard over the final 4 innings of those games, and you were able to get some freshmen some time in a low-leverage spot. You feel like you don't need to ease Guidry in. You may not think you need to ease Ware in. And certainly Cowan's pitched a lot of baseball against that level of competition. It's a new setting for him, but same deal. Ware didn't get in any of these instances, so here, let's start. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Connor Ware go 3 innings today, to go maybe 4 innings today. You got 2 midweek games this week. You got Southern today, then you're at Nichols tomorrow. So you got 18 innings to work in the midweek, and then a couple days off before you, well, I guess 1 day off before you get ready to go play on a Friday afternoon. And so I think that there is going to be some opportunity for some guys to go 3-4 innings. They'll have your guys that come in and out, give you your 1 inning, let it loose. The guys that you feel like are maybe bullpen guys, maybe binge. But I'm excited to watch Ware today. If you have not seen him, You're going to see a fastball in the low 90s. He's not one of these guys that's 98, 99. Like, that's not in his repertoire. If it was, he wouldn't be here. From the left side, starting in JUCO, though in 98, 99, he'd be on a professional team. He's going to be closer to 91, 92. He may bump up to 93, 94, but he throws a changeup that's really good. He spins 2 breaking balls that are very good. He just knows how to pitch. And it's a repeatable left-handed delivery. It's smooth. It's comfortable. There's a lot of command there. And this was an interesting comment. I can't even now remember which pitcher said. I think it may have been Cade Anderson that said it over the weekend. I can't quite remember. But the quote was, I try to make it as boring as possible when I'm out there. I think it was Cade Anderson. Connor Ware is really boring when he's out there. Like, this is not like Zach Hess marching around the mound, slinging it 98, snapping off the sliders. This is a guy that gets the baseball, gets into that smooth release, boom, pump strikes. Boom, fades that changeup. Creates a weak ground ball to third. Gets a strikeout. He's ahead again 0-2. Like, he knows how to get ahead in the count and make pitches. And so I believe that Connor Ware is going to factor in the bullpen for this season. I still think that strongly. But today they want to get him out there in a controlled environment. They know what the score is going to be when he goes out there. They know what time he's going to go out there. They know how long he's got to warm up. This is a very controlled environment. You send him out there, you see what he can do. If he goes 1 inning and comes out, I won't be stunned. I would imagine it'll be closer to 3 because he is one of the guys that Jay Johnson did stretch out, that Yesky did stretch out over the last 6 weeks. So Connor Ware will get to start today. It's LSU and Southern. You can listen to it on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Certainly stream it on SEC Network Plus. We'll leave baseball in the rearview mirror in hour 2 and talk about the Saints and LSU football, and we'll talk to Kurt Schilling as well. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball coming up with Glen West in 20 minutes. So get ready for LSU and Southern this afternoon at 2 o'clock. When we come back, Kellen Moore is doing a lot of hiring on one side of the baseball. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car that is online is on the lot. Every car that is on the lot is online, and you can find them at genesisofbatonrouge.com. You may not think Genesis when you're thinking about getting a new car, and that's not your fault. Genesis hadn't been around that long. They've only been at their location, their airline in Piku, for about 2 years now. But when I say luxury vehicle, there are probably some brands that pop into your mind that have been there a little bit longer. That's fine, but just toss Genesis into that group. Go see them. Just see the difference. They got tons of vehicles in that line. Starts with those entry level all the way up to the highest end, and the safety features don't change. Those baseline safety features are non-negotiable for Genesis. So if we want the sedan, they got it. You want the full-size SUV, they got it. It's all there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can start your process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, but as always, invite you to go by the dealership. Airline at Piku across from Women's Hospital. Phenomenal facility, incredible line of vehicles. See the difference today. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
We'll talk baseball with Glen West as well as some basketball here in 15 minutes. I do have to share this. I was going to leave LSU Southern in the rearview mirror after that segment. I feel like we kind of covered the lineup and what we're looking for today. I have to mention Southern's starting pitcher's name because it's phenomenal and timely in terms of our, sponsor here. Their starting pitcher is left-handed, which gives you reason why you've got Dickinson in the 4-hole, Fry at DH. Also, his name, Genesis Prosper. I like a Genesis of Baton Rouge.
That's pretty good. He pitched 1 inning. He's pitched 1 inning this year. Last year he pitched 14 innings and had an ERA of 10.43. He is 6'2", 175. Went to St. Aug.
Okay. Well, I'm pulling for Genesis. I hope he has a heck of a day. I hope he also offers a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty as well.
That would be nice.
I believe that in the rearview mirror. Genesis Prosser taking the bump for Southern here in about an hour out at the box. Kellen Moore not wasting a ton of time getting that staff put into place. And it's very, very obvious what Kellen Moore's strategy is right from the start. because we're seeing these hires being reported, and there's a common theme. He's got Scott Tolzien coming in, presumably to coach quarterbacks. He was quarterbacks coach with Kellen Moore in Dallas and has been in the NFL as a player or coach since 2011. But he's presumably coming in to coach quarterbacks under Kellen Moore. TJ Paganetti. He's a guy that we don't have a position for yet, but he's been the Eagles' offensive line coach assistant since 2017, been with that organization more than a decade on the offensive line side of things with the run game. He's going to join Kellen Moore in New Orleans. Joel Thomas, who, if that name sounds familiar, it should, was with the Saints as a running backs coach from 2015 to 2023. He's coming back to New Orleans to work with Kellen Moore. The first two guys I mentioned, Tolzien and Paganetti, have previous relationships with Kellen Moore. Thomas, previous relationships with Alvin Kamara and the Saints running back room. But the more important tie that all these guys have is their offensive coaches. Very clearly, Kellen Moore took that job and goes, okay, before I try to build this house, I'm going to make sure that my current situation is stable. And by that, I mean his offense. The offense is his corner of the store. The offense is his room, okay? So he's going to make sure that everything is in place on the offense, and then he will go select his defensive coordinator and work with that defensive coordinator who's going to have control of that side of the football to fill out the rest of that staff. That much is very obvious because you're seeing more coaches, like you're seeing Doug Nussmeier's name being surfaced. And that's not like from a week ago. That's like today saying that they expect that Doug Nussmeier will be the offensive coordinator. But again, that's offense. I don't see really much of any speculation or reporting as of who the defensive coordinator is going to be. Of course, Brandon Staley's name has been brought up, but it's not like we're seeing that he's expected to be named, which is what we're seeing across the board on all these positions on the offense. Kellen Moore's got a plan here. And I like this. I think this makes a ton of sense. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I can give you the merits of Scott Tolzien as a quarterback coach. He's done it for a couple of years in Dallas. One of those years, Dak Prescott pretty much missed the whole year. So, like, I'm not. That's a waste of my time to sit here and try, and your time for me to sit here and try to break down how well Scott Tolzien handles the quarterbacks. But Kellen Moore's worked with him and feels good enough about it to bring him over. TJ Paganetti, I can tell you, is a guy that everyone in Philly that is seeing this news is surprised he's moving on. That's someone that the Eagles absolutely have prioritized. That's someone they feel has been impactful with them. We all know how good the Eagles were running the football this year. Saquon Barkley nearly set a regular season record. And I can't sit here and tell you what Paganetti's impact was on that particular season. I think Saquon Barkley's pretty damn good running back. But I know that the Eagles have valued him enough to keep him around a long time. And I know that the people that cover the Eagles are surprised that Kellen Moore was able to lure him to New Orleans. And I'll tell you this, one thing I like to look at when hires are made is what are the folks saying in the place where that person left? And in this instance, you're seeing a lot of, oh, wow, didn't see that coming. So that's, to me, a positive. That's the only thing I can really read from that. And then Joel Thomas, very, very, very much respected by the New Orleans Saints organization. When Clint Kubiak came in, he kind of wanted to do his thing. And at that point, if you're Dennis Allen, you got to let him do his thing because you're foundering on offense. And so you brought Clint Kubiak in, and he got to do his thing. But this is a guy in Joel Thomas that was spent a lot of time with the New Orleans Saints, coached Mark Ingram, coached Alvin Kamara, worked under Sean Payton, worked under Dennis Allen, and he's got a real connection to the city. I was interested. I was reading some of the tweets when Thomas was hired or reported he was going to be hired, and Luke Johnson, our buddy who we'll talk to on Thursday, said, yeah, like he comes back to Mardi Gras every single year. I'm sure he's going to be here, and now he can come for Mardi Gras and move into his house again. So that's a guy with ties to the organization. I think that's usually a little bit more important from a college perspective to get kind of somebody on the staff that has a feel for how to recruit to the area. That's not necessarily as big a deal in New Orleans, but I do think if you've got a coach in this instance that has worked with players for a long time. And in Alvin Kamara's case, he has. That just makes a lot of sense. I think it's going to be a very, very comfortable landing spot for Joel Thomas. So as I said on Monday, as I said at the end of last week, I'm not as concerned with the offensive hires that Kellen Moore makes because that's his baby and he's going to do that his way. And his track record suggests that the Saints should be well coached on offense. Notice I didn't say uber productive. I didn't say they would be phenomenal on offense. They would be a high octane offense. I didn't say any of that. I think they'll be well coached on offense. They got work to do from a personnel perspective to be a great offense. But if Kellen Moore can't get the offense to click, then it's not going to work anyway. The question is, can you get the other side of the ball correct? And it appears to me, which is what he should be doing, he's going to take care of his room first, and then we'll go across the hall, and we'll get that figured out. And if it's Brandon Staley, and they kind of know that, he can start planting some seeds elsewhere as to who he'd like to have come in and be that guy, great. If it's somebody else, great. I'll react to that when that time comes. But if you're looking for information on how this is all shaking out, you can absolutely do that at LouisianaSports.net. Ross is doing a great job of breaking it all down. Scott Tolzien expected to come in and work with quarterbacks. You would think Doug Nussmeier probably going to be the guy to come in and be the offensive coordinator, which will not be the play caller. Kellen Moore will do that. So those two guys mainly will deal with the quarterback and the passing game. Then up front, you're looking at TJ Paganetti and maybe another assistant coach that they want to bring in. We're not sure what that role is going to look like. And then Joel Thomas going to handle running back. Still got to deal with tight ends and wide receivers. And then you can kind of turn your identity to the defensive side of the ball. And I'm very, very, very curious. Here's what I'll say. You've heard this segment, me talking about what Kellen Moore's done on the offense. It's been pretty tepid. Like, it's kind of like, okay, here's what he's got. Looks pretty good. Fine. That's kind of what I'm looking for, like, on the offense. I think that my discussion on the defensive coordinator hire and the defensive staff that is brought in will probably be more pointed because I just think it's more impactful. The Kellen Moore era, in my opinion, is not going to be defined by the offense. I think the offense will be a constant. I think it'll be good. Likely, on the on-field, from an on-field perspective, that era will be defined on how well he can continue to handle the defense, because that's where there's going to be the most variability. And of course, that all starts with the players and the personnel that you stock the shelves with. And then you assess the results after that. Nobody's going to be able to coach a team that has a bunch of guys who are in their mid-upper 30s that are hurt all the time. So that's not worth evaluating. But once you get the proper personnel in place, and we feel like Kellen Moore will do that on the offensive side, and then we'll see what happens on defense, that's where the variability is going to come in. That's where you'll determine what this era of Saints football is going to look like. So right now, looks like a guy that has a plan. Looks like that plan's been put into place pretty quickly. Looks like it's been pretty effective. Looks like he's putting together an offensive staff with good amount of pace here. What comes on the other side of the ball and how quickly? You hope by the middle of next week, when you can go ahead and get to the combine and you can determine what you're looking for to restock the cells and reshape this roster, because that's what's got to happen for the New Orleans Saints, quick, fast, and in a hurry. This is what it is. Looking for Saints coverage? I mentioned LouisianaSports.net. You can always find our Saints coverage as well at Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcasts. No matter where, to search Hunt on Saints, all year round. YouTube, you can find us there as well. If you like, subscribe, rate, and review, we always very much appreciate that. Helps us get our content in front of as many people as possible, and we appreciate y'all's help with all of that. All right, half the hour down. Hour number one, getting you ready for LSU and Southern from the box, as well as LSU and South Carolina. 8 o'clock tip tonight in the PMAC. We'll do that with Glen West, senior writer of Go 24/7, when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Weather's going to warm up. It's going to be springtime, one of my favorite times of the year in South Louisiana. A lot of great opportunity to hang out outside, whether it's crawfish boils, if you've got a pool, an outdoor kitchen situation, or just like us, you got a swing set in the backyard and you just like to hang out out there. Well, it's better to hang out there if you've got sound system. Better to hang out there if you've got a television. If you need surround sound, you need a television put into your outdoor area, Mitchell Fisher and his team are happy to do that. They handle the audio, they handle the video, they can handle all the equipment. And I'll tell you this, the customer service after that installation is phenomenal. That's the beauty of working with that small local company. You'll get a relationship with Mitchell, as we do. He can come over and make sure all of your issues are put to bed very, very quickly, as he's done for us over the 1 year that we've now lived at the new house. It's Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio Video Security Solutions. They're at Instagram at AVSS_BR. You can always find them online at AVSSLA.com. Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Busy day on campus, 30 minutes from first pitch, LSU and Southern. And I guess, let's see if I can do some math here. 6 hours and 30 minutes. Yeah, 6 hours, 29 minutes from tip-off between LSU and South Carolina in the PMAC. Glen West covering all of it for Go 24/7. He's a senior writer there. He joins us every Tuesday. Glenn, how are you?
Doing great, Hunt. Happy to be back in the swing of baseball season, as I know you are.
Yes, very much so. It was a great weekend out at the box. Had good enough weather for an opening weekend. I've certainly seen a lot worse, and we saw a lot of good play from LSU. I know that we don't think that Purdue-Fort Wayne's headed directly for Omaha this year, but LSU handled its business. Was there I know the aspect of the pitchers throwing a lot of strikes was what everybody was talking about. Was there a player that you enjoyed watching for the first time in a regular season game over the weekend?
Yeah, I think there were a few for me. I mean, on the pitching side, William Schmidt, getting to watch him on Sunday was pretty exciting. I mean, we'd heard so much about the freshmen and really all the freshman pitchers. I thought was one of my biggest takeaways for all four of those guys to put up zeros in their innings. I think they allowed one hit combined, and they struck out like 9 or 10 guys and didn't walk anybody. I mean, to have that composure as a freshman in your debut for all four of those guys, I thought was really, really impressive. And on the position player side, certainly Derek Curiel was one that we were waiting to see, and was very excited to see him. And I thought he really handled himself extremely well, took really good at bats, was obviously all over the place in the outfield. Chris Stanfield in center field, I thought had a really nice weekend, just in his debut as the starting center fielder, and somebody that had built a lot of momentum, I think, here, particularly over the last month or so, preseason scrimmages. So it was nice to see him carry that out and get on base pretty consistently in that leadoff spot. So those were a few. Certainly, I think a couple things we're going to be watching here is just kind of how they continue to divide up the playing time with that other outfield spot and the DH in terms of which two guys are going to be in the starting lineup. I would imagine that they rotate guys in throughout the games and whatnot like they did this last weekend. But certainly those two spots I think are still very much up for grabs in terms of the consistency with which those players are going to be out there.
Yeah, today's Josh Pearson in right, and then you see Ethan Fry in the DH spot with a left-hander on the mound for Southern. Surprised at all that Ashton Larson did not start today?
It's surprise is maybe a little bit of a strong word, just because I think all these guys are going to play a lot here, but Ashton Larson had a really nice game on Sunday in his first start of the season. He obviously pinch hit several times in the first two games as well, and put together some really good at bats. I mean, I think if he keeps swinging the bat like that, he's going to be very hard to take off the field. But they really want to work in a lot of these other players to see if they can do it consistently as he showed over the weekend. And I think a game like this is a good time to trot out an Ethan Fry and a Josh Pearson, and just to see if those two guys can continue to have some consistency, because you're going to need more than just the 9 when you get to SEC play. You're going to need some other players to really step up in rotational roles and pinch hit moments. And I think that's the kind of stuff that Jay Johnson really wants to find out here over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
You see anything from the catchers over the weekend? They were kind of under the radar. Yeah,
I thought Luis Hernandez did a really nice job behind the plate defensively. I can't say that any of them really showed me much offensively. They took some good at bats. I think maybe Hernandez got a hit. I can't exactly remember, but I thought he looked pretty comfortable behind the plate, made a nice play on a pop-up where he made a play right there by the LSU dugout and was able to track that down. So I think what you're looking for is just consistency behind the plate defensively, because I do think LSU's going to have enough offense, this year without, needing the catcher to blast 12, 13 home runs and hit for 300. Like, I think they can survive if the catcher is maybe a little bit under in that batting average perspective. So I thought they looked good. Blaze Priester got in there a little bit too, but I think what we saw, at least, it's going to be Hernandez and Aaron Beatty at least a lot to start the year.
All right, we haven't talked about the starting pitching. I want to talk first about Cade Anderson. He got the ball on Friday. Your impressions?
Yeah, immediately I wrote a piece about him the next day, and I threw the word ace out there, and I got some pushback from our guys on our message board at 24/7 for maybe that being too strong of a word after one start, and I can certainly see that. But I think probably the biggest thing for me, just the mindset, the demeanor that he has on the mound. He compared it to Luke Holman last year. Jay Johnson thought that was an excellent comp for him in terms of the consistency with which he carries himself on the mound, and he just throws a ton of strikes. I mean, he's going to pound the strike zone from the left side. He's going to get a fastball up to 93, probably still, kind of be in that 91 to 93 range. But when you can mix it with a really strong slider, a good curveball, I think he has a changeup as well. When he's mixing his pitches the way that he does, I think he's going to be a really consistent piece for LSU, and he has the kind of mindset that I think you want in that Friday role. So I was extremely impressed with him. He got into a jam, I think, in the third or fourth inning of his start, allowed a couple guys on with no outs and was able to get out of it lickety split. So I think he's only going to continue to build and get better with this first start. And, I think he's not going to relinquish control of that Friday role here going forward.
Ianson gave up more hits than Anderson and Shores did, but he also limited damage. What did you make of his Saturday outing?
Yeah, I hadn't seen a whole ton of Ianson, to be quite honest with you, this offseason. I'm going back to the fall even. I think I saw him pitch maybe once or twice in totality. So it was really nice to see him. I mean, that curveball has some really good movement to it. I think it's 78, 79 miles an hour. And you're right. He was hit a little bit early on in his outing, but I think he kind of really got it under control and was able to really come through, I think, in for the majority of his outing with just getting guys out and making the right pitches when he needed to. So I think he's somebody that's going to continue to be a starter here in the short term, and we'll see if he can kind of hold on to that spot.
And then Chase Shores made his return after, 22 months away from pitching. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's electric. I mean, there's nobody on this staff that has the ceiling that he does, and he was mixing his 97, 98 mile an hour fastball with a really strong slider there that got up to 85, 86 miles an hour on Sunday. And, whether it's Purdue, Fort Wayne, or whether it's Tennessee in the middle of the season, that's going to be really hard to deal with if he's throwing both of those pitches for strikes. And that was really good to see so early in his outing. I think just as a pitching staff as a whole, I think the fact that, not even just the numbers that they put up, the fact that they were putting the ball over the plate so consistently as a staff, I think was something that is really impressive, especially for an opening weekend when you're just, you're trying to figure some stuff out and you're probably not what you're going to be as a player in terms of having all your appearances underneath your belt. So for all those guys to go out there and throw strikes and not put guys on base for free passes, I thought was really important.
Glen West, our guest, senior writer over at Go 24/7. All your team coverage you can find over there at Go 24/7, as well as your recruiting, all three sports. Let's talk basketball tonight. PMAC, South Carolina comes in winless in league play. LSU coming off a miraculous win on Saturday against Oklahoma up in Norman. Let's go back to Saturday first. Your impressions of the end of that game where Cam Carter kind of put the team on his back.
Yeah, shout out Cam Carter. I mean, the last 6 minutes, I think LSU was down 13 points at one point, and they just kept, chipping away at it. And, I think it started with Damian Collins, who had a really nice second half. And, he had a couple poor fouls there towards the end of that game that cost him the opportunity to finish that one out. But I thought they really started to get going offensively with him, attacking the rim. He had a couple outside jump shots and made some nice finishes around the rim. And then Cam Carter just took it over down the stretch. I mean, just in terms of a single effort, I don't know that there's been a better one in the Matt McMahon era in terms of a single player carrying a team to a win. He was extremely consistent. making all kinds of crazy shots. And then obviously to get that 4-point play there. And then for Curtis Givens, the freshman, to have the awareness to get the steal and then immediately look for Cam Carter. I think the gut reaction in that moment would be, okay, I got the ball, let me go make a play. But no, he was looking for the guy that had the hot hand and got it to him. And Cam Carter made a really nice play, and they got out of there with a win. I mean, it was a much needed thing for this group that's been through a lot and obviously struggled through SEC play to finish the game out with a 5-guard lineup because all their bigs were either hurt or fouled out, to overcome that adversity, overcome the double-digit adversity in the second half. I thought was really important and just in terms of saving some of the mindset and the morale, I guess, of this team at this late stage in the season.
I've thought about how to ask this question. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Is there a chance they can beat South Carolina by 12 or 15 points tonight?
I would say yes. I mean, South Carolina hasn't shown you much either in terms of being able to go anywhere and get a win in the SEC. So, look, I mean, I think you can use this momentum and kind of try to figure things out and kind of build on it. But, look, I think they're going to need a team effort for that stuff to happen. I mean, we've seen it this year. Like, they're not a team that has been able to show consistently that they can compete with the best in this conference. And South Carolina is not the best in this conference, but neither is LSU. So we've got to see what this team can look like against a team that they're supposed to beat or supposed to maybe have an advantage over. So yeah, I think they could, but it's going to come down to a lot of some of the issues that they've had this year. Can they hold on to the ball, not turn it over? Can they hit some shots from the outside and get rebounds on a consistent basis on both the offensive and defensive glass?
3 straight games where LSU has exactly 9 turnovers. And we know it's been such a problem all year. Have you seen anything different? Any reason why they've been able to hold on to the ball a little bit better?
I think they're just being smarter about how they want to go about using their offense. I mean, I think they're shooting a lot more threes over these last 3 or 4 games. I mean, that's been a healthy diet of 3-point shooting. And, when you're not, driving it into traffic as much in the lane and trying to kick it out for open shots or just trying to finish around the rim, it maybe leads you to some opportunities to not turn the ball over as much. But I think it really just comes down to the guys just taking better care of the ball. And, you've seen LSU run out Curtis Givens a lot more. You've seen the ball in Cam Carter's hands a lot more. And look, I think they've got to find ways to get the ball into the hands of the guys that are not going to turn the ball over. And, look, I hate to pick on one guy, but Jordan Sears only played 10 minutes in that game on Saturday. So he's been one of their best scorers, but he's also been somebody that's been turnover prone at times in SEC play. So I think just focusing in on the guys that, are going to take better care of the ball and initiate some good offense and get shots up at the very least is all you can really ask for from this team at this point.
Busy 10 hours coming up for you. We'll let you get to it. We appreciate some time, Glenn.
All right, Hunt. Thanks. Take care.
Glenn West, senior writer over there at Go 24/7. We'll have a story up for baseball coming up at 2 o'clock. We'll have a story for basketball this evening coming up at 8 o'clock. I've also got previews of both of those games. If you want to read the baseball preview, I would go right now because the game starts in 16 minutes. So it's at LouisianaSports.net, but the basketball preview is also up there as well. Ross Jackson got you covered with all of your Saints hirings as they become reported and are up there on social media world. So LouisianaSports.net, always free. It's always right there for you. LouisianaSports.net. Come back. We'll close out the hour. LSU basketball lost a player yesterday. What does that mean? And what does it mean for the football team? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. They can do a full-scale bathroom renovation. If you're in an older home and you're noticing that there's some leaking, you're noticing that there's some rusting, maybe there's molding, maybe there's just an issue that you can't fix anymore, and you need a whole bathroom renovation, they can do it at One Bath and Closets. They've got a master plumber right there that they have access to, and David Duvall will handle it from soup to nuts, the entire deal. But it doesn't always have to be something that labor-intensive. It can be something as simple as a tub-to-shower conversion that can be done quickly and affordably. You don't ever use your bathtub. Well, why do you have it? Get rid of it. Take the tub out, put in a glass walk-in shower, change the aesthetic of your bathroom, change the functionality of your bathroom, add some value to your home, and make it more beautiful. David Vaughn and his team are happy to help you with that. It all starts with a free consultation. You can find him at onebathandclosets.com. He'll come on out. He'll tell you what they can do, get you some pricing, financing's available, see what you qualify for. Get that show on the road. It's One Bath and Closets. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. Onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1 here. Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I mentioned we got a ton to do in hour number 2. We will preview LSU and South Carolina a little bit more in depth here in about 10 minutes. Sharif Ishak, WDSU, is going to join us at 2:15 to talk about the Saints and all the hirings that they are making down there. And then Kurt Schilling, Major League Baseball legend, going to be with us at 2:30. Thought we were going to have a chance to catch up with Kurt last week at the Super Bowl, but turns out that did not work out. He reached back out to us and was like, hey, we can do that again. So we set it up. We got it going on today at 2:30, so we'll talk to Kurt Schilling about the World War II Museum, which he's really passionate about, but as well as his playing career in Major League Baseball. We got word yesterday that Trades Green is going to step away from the basketball program to focus on academics. This was a decision that was made after a meeting between Trades Green and Brian Kelly, and they're kind of looking at where things stand. And this makes a ton of sense, obviously. Trades Green, I know for a fact, wants to play basketball. He told us in a midweek media session on a Tuesday at Football Ops, like, my first love was always basketball. And I went out for one football game, and I played one football game, and I got an offer from Houston to go play football, and then got more, and all of a sudden he started garnering a lot of conversation as a football player. But his first love is what has always been basketball. He's a great high school player, and he wanted to go play for LSU this year. And the football program said, okay, go do it. So he joined the team very late in conference play, and he went out there, and he did some athletic stuff. Of course, the Alabama game will come to mind, where he goes and blocks the shot and then runs it out and dunks it. He helped him a little bit on the glass when they were really struggling there. But it's not like he's had an immense impact here. You're talking about a guy who's played 6 games. Over the course of those 6 games, he's 5 of 12 shooting. That's 42%. Missed all 4 of his threes. He shot 3 threes in that Auburn game, and I was sitting in the press row going, I think we got to rein it back just a little bit, Trades. Play the number 1 team in the country. Maybe don't chuck up 3 threes in the first half. But he was 0 for 4 from the three-point line, 1 of 2 on free throws. He got 10 rebounds and scored 11 points in 6 games. That's an average of 1.8 points per game and 1.7 rebounds per game. Yeah, it might be nice to have him tonight because you realize that Jalen Reed is out for the season. Damian Collins has separated his shoulder. He's probable to come back. Corey Chess is dealing with back spasms. So, your front court numbers are bad in this game, and so it might help to have him. But the point being here, Trades Green has got an NFL future. He's got a future as a key piece to the LSU passing game, and he's just another guy on the basketball court. This is something that's very obvious. Everyone that's talked about this has said the same thing, but it bears repeating. At 6'7", 245 pounds, you're just Joe Wing player in the SEC. At 6'7", 245 pounds at tight end, you're the most difficult matchup on the field for some defenses. Big difference. And so it makes a lot. I don't know what Trades' academic situation is, what classes he's in, what his grades are, what the time constraints are. I do know this. In-season basketball travel is very difficult on the student athlete. You're talking about 6 and 8 o'clock games on the road on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Those 8 o'clock games don't end until 10:30. You're not getting to the airport until midnight. You take the 3-hour flight back home. You land at 3. You got to drive into campus. You don't have an opportunity to go to sleep till 4:30 in the morning. And then you've got workouts in class and study hall and all the kind of things that's really difficult. And then you've got to get ready for another game, and you got to play that on Saturday. And it's just a lot. And while a lot of these guys on the basketball team have been working really hard since the summer, they weren't doing a football season that dates back to August that's that physical. And Trades Green in December was taking all the reps at tight end and beating himself senseless in practices trying to work on blocking because Mason Taylor was opting out of the bowl game, and he was the only tight end they had left. And then he went into the basketball season is doing all that. So it's just a lot to ask of a young person on your body, on your time, on your concentration, and all that. I'm just talking about sports, much less what goes on in the classroom. And you're looking at LSU, and your a conference record is what it is. You're 2-10. You're not going to the Final Four. You're not competing for championships. You're kind of playing out the string. And I know they all want to win the game tonight, and I hope they win the game tonight. I know they all want to win as many games as they can, but we know what this basketball team is. And so for Trey'Dez Green to risk himself and to compromise his ability to prep for spring football and to get his academics in order to go out there and do this for a point and a rebound a game for a 2-10 league team, probably not the best idea. I think we can all agree on that. And that's without any information as to what his grades are, what his course load is, what his management is. I don't know any of that. But I feel like this is just the right decision for Trey'Dez, and honestly, in the best interest of LSU athletics as a whole. These guys are going to do what they do on the basketball court with or without Trey'Dez Green. Again, with the depth in issues they've got, it would make sense for him to be out there, but that's the small picture. We're looking big picture. This is a guy who needs to be in the classroom, needs to be ready for spring football, needs to be ready to play more in blocking situations, needs to be ready to be a force for LSU in the passing game next year. You saw in the bowl game, he's got that stuff. You need to see it come Labor Day that he's still got that stuff. So it's fun to watch a football player go out there and be a freak athlete on the basketball court, but we know where he needs to be, and that's on the football field, and that's where he's going to be next when they come back in spring football. So it'll be no Trey'Dez Green for LSU, very likely the rest of the way in this basketball season, unless something were to change. So that's a look at our number one. Appreciate you hanging out with us. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. Of course, you're going to be dated here pretty quickly because at the top of the show, we talked about LSU's baseball lineup, and they're going to throw the first pitch in 4 minutes. So you might want to go back and listen to that one real quick if you haven't. You also talked a little bit of basketball and baseball with Glen West. So go catch that on demand. We'll come back, talk some basketball after Sports Center on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.